call to order the Town Council meeting for the Town of New Windsor for January 3rd, 2024. If everyone would rise with me and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our meetings are recorded electronically. We go by an agenda. Anyone wishing to have something placed on the agenda for council discussion should have had it to the town hall by 3 o'clock on the last Wednesday of the previous month. Anyone wishing to speak tonight, we ask you to sign up over here. All right.
A handful of usual suspects.
Approval of the minutes from the December Town Council meeting. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And a second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so carried. Last month, we gave out the service plaques for our businesses. Unfortunately, Deborah wasn't able to be here, so if you would like to come up front here. So, the mayor and council recognizes the Huffman Genealogical Services for their 10 years of service, 2023.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like to say a few words about the business.
So I started this business in 2013, but I've actually been doing genealogical services research for a lot longer, since I was about 10 with my grandparents. And I just decided that I really enjoyed helping people also discover their family information and the roots and history of their families. And especially living in a small town in New Windsor, it's just nice to be in a small town and to really appreciate where, how people started, towns and what they did. So thank you.
Thank you very much. One question, as a business owner, whenever you've had to contact a council member, have you had any problems? Very good. Good to know. That's what I like to hear. All right, mayor's report. Going here somewhere. Will you have it?
Yeah, I looked at it earlier.
It was in the folder. I finally got it in there.
Third down on mine.
A lot of meetings. Christmas tree lighting, which I want to thank staff again for getting that ready, and also the Main Street part looked really nice, both of them. So it was very nice the town staff did that. I want to thank the town staff for sending a basket after my surgery. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very thoughtful. Wreaths Across America, after multiple discussions with Deputy Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, Dylan Goldberg, we finally got the Governor Moore to come to Pike Creek Church of the Brethren Cemetery, which I'm honored to be the president of the board out there. I just felt it was appropriate for the governor to come out to Pike Creek if he was going to come out to Carroll County, due to the fact that Donna Bablin, the owner of Bablin Vault, which oversees distribution of wreaths at 41 cemeteries in Carroll County, was going to be at Pike Creek. So that's why the governor finally decided to come there. So while there, I talked to Governor Moore about several issues, including streetscape, Dealman Inn, some veterans issues, and also a return trip to New Windsor, which he said he would try to do. Part of the conversation regarded Dealman Inn, to get the Community Development Secretary Jake Day to visit New Windsor and take a tour of Dealman to possibly get additional funding for Dealman Inn. And that is my report. Council committee report. Community enhancement.
Hi, like Mayor Rupert had stated, I wanted to thank everybody for the generous gift of the Get Well basket that I had received myself after my surgery, which I'm still kind of going through. I don't have much to report at this time, but I wanted to report on the fact of how beautiful the town looked, all decorated with the tree lighting, and everybody's efforts put forth to make all that possible.
Thank you. Public Works?
Good evening, everyone. A couple things I want to remind folks of. Public Works started the Christmas tree pickup today. They will also be picking them up on January 10th and January the 17th. And Public Works let me know that they have all the snow equipment installed on the trucks and are ready for any winter weather that we may receive over the weekend. The Planning Commission did not meet in December. Our next scheduled meeting is January 22nd. And some councilman highlights. I attended the Town Council scheduled meetings as well as the Town Christmas tree lighting. Attended the Carroll County chapter of the Maryland Municipal League MML's meeting. And I have been reviewing the revised comprehensive plan for the Planning Commission in preparation for our Planning Commission meeting in January.
Anything exciting brought up at the MML dinner?
There was a few things that were brought up, and some of them were, how should I say it? Hot topics and maybe some disagreements that are going on that I think our Carroll County delegation is going to work through and hopefully work through.
Alrighty, water and sewer?
So I have a short report today. First is the annual inspection at the wastewater treatment plant was held, and no violations were found. They did recommend sewer lining, but Director Myers has already been planning that for about a year now, so we're already on top of that. There was a leak on Maple Avenue, so Mid-Atlantic came out and made some temporary repairs. A new vault is going to be added this week if the weather permits. And then the road will be patched after. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Public safety, health?
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. Not a lot to report in terms of public health and safety meetings for the month, but like the mayor, I did attend New Windsor Fire Company's Christmas dinner. It was very nice and well attended. Obviously, and we attended the New Windsor Christmas tree lighting at Fountain Park. Also attended the National Wreaths Across America. Had a chance to speak to the governor, and he actually remembered me from the MML session this summer, which was a little bit of a highlight. And then also attended the MML quarterly dinner, as Councilman Hoffman mentioned. And yes, there were some interesting discussions of the upcoming General Assembly meeting. I also have a fraternity brother who is a delegate in Baltimore, and he happened to know our delegate for Carroll County and actually gets along with him. I think they're on a committee together. So, but I had a chance to, he didn't know that I was an elected official in New Windsor, and I don't know that he can really help us in anything, but it's good to have connections with delegates that you know attend the state meetings. So anyway, I do have a couple upcoming meetings. The Opioid Coalition meeting is scheduled for January 10th. I will be attending that, as well as I attended this last year, but the Carroll County Commissioners reception is going to be on the January 23rd at the Carroll County office building. So plan on doing that on the 23rd. And then I did receive, I think it may be the 25th or so, there is an opioid, sort of like an opioid coalition town hall meeting at the public safety building. I got to double check the date on that, but I think it's the 23rd. So I have that on my calendar to attend. Yes, so that's what my plans are for the upcoming month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's always good to have relationships with delegation members wherever they may be.
Yeah.
You know, I had one in Baltimore County at one time when we needed support for a bill that supported the fire departments, and he was paid career firefighter from Baltimore County, so it all helps.
Oh, yeah.
You know, especially for Carroll County, any additional outside help that the county delegation can get is critical a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of times our things get done through people that you know and connections. So it was pretty neat that he knew. I mean, because he lives in Baltimore County, and he represents parts of Baltimore City and Baltimore County, but he knew Delegate Boucher. So that was pretty neat. I agree with you there. I do have that date. It's actually the 17th, and it's called the Community Overdose Action Town Hall. And again, that is at the Carroll County Public Safety Building at 50 Kate Wagner Avenue, Kate Wagner Road, and it's from 6:30 to 7:30, again, on the 17th. So.
Economic development?
I got a few emails about some events that I'm just going to mention. The Carroll County Workforce Development Board is having a new event called the First Annual Convening for Businesses. It's called the Talent Reimagined Workforce Convening, and they want businesses to attend and engage in a discussion about the future of the workforce in Carroll County. So that's on the 17th, and it's going to be held at their offices, and I'll put that on Facebook, and it's 8:30 to 11:30. And then somebody from the town of Hampstead emailed me because the Carroll County Municipal League scholarships applications are open. There are 3 $1,000 scholarships for high school students who have been accepted to college or university, or Carroll County students who are currently enrolled in graduate or undergraduate programs for the 24-25 school year. So that's going to be on our Facebook page Friday. I think I scheduled it for Friday. And it's also on the town of Hampstead's website under news and announcements. And it's due, the applications are due Friday, April 26th, so there's time. And then the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce is having their annual State of the County meeting, which is free and open to the community. It's going to be at the Arts Center, and it's an opportunity for citizens to hear directly from the commissioners and ask questions. And that's Tuesday, January 9th at 8 a.m. And I attended pretty much most of the same meetings everybody else did. The MML meeting was interesting. We heard one representative, I'm not going to say any names, we had one representative of the delegation who was very positive and one who was not so positive. There was very high praise, however, for the new director of the MML, so that was good to hear. I've heard that more than once. So they've got some challenges ahead of them, especially with the highway user revenues. And just my monthly reminder, I do attend the HSP board meetings, and there's money out there for utilities if you can't pay your heat or any other utility bill. Oh, and once Councilman Goober and I is all better, we'll get together again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Town manager?
Okay, just a brief report, a couple things. The Maryland 31 Water Main Improvement Project update. We had our progress meeting, last project meeting was held December 20th, and the next meeting is scheduled for January 24th. We're back on track. We were bumped things up for the holidays in November and December, but we're back on track for January 24th at 9 a.m. The water main installation is complete for this year and will resume in the spring of '24. Project slowed down a bit during the holidays. Mid-Atlantic shut down and did not work the week between Christmas and New Year's, which is typical for them. So they're just getting started again. We'll be doing the pavement repairs that Councilman Hall mentioned on Maple Avenue related to the water leak. The other paving patch was thought to be a leak, but we found that that's not the case, and they'll be also patching that area. Mid-Atlantic will also be doing stakeout on the remaining water main alignment. The Maryland SHA 31, it's got a new name. I'm adding to it as well. They're calling it a sidewalk project, but I got it called Sidewalk, Storm Drain, and Paving Improvements Project. They state delivered updated plans on Friday, December 22nd, right before Christmas. So town staff will review those plans, and they request a meeting to discuss once we have reviewed Mayor Roop requested the meeting be on Monday, the 8th, before he returns to work. And I emailed the project manager requesting that date, but she was out of the office until yesterday. But I did hear back from her late today saying that she's forwarded the request to her team, and we'll be getting back to us on dates for that meeting. Then lastly, it's budget season. The FY25 budget schedule has been prepared. It's available in tonight's folder. The preparation has begun and will be ongoing for the next couple of months per the schedule. I encourage Mayor and Council to look at it. I can put a PDF version of the current budget in there so you can review. And if there are any specific current line items you want to discuss or new line items that you want to add, let me know, preferably on or before the work session or as soon as possible. You can call me, email me, schedule an appointment, however you want to do it, to meet and go over anything in particular you want. And just the upcoming dates for the meetings is January's work session is Tuesday because of the holiday, January 16th, and Wednesday, February 7th is council. And then the February work session is a Tuesday as well, February 20th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Public Works Director?
Good evening. Town staff assisted Mid-Atlantic Utilities with end of the year water line project details, including installation of new service laterals and water system valve operation. Town staff, including town manager Dye, attended MDE online training courses on lead line service inventories and how to report information to the state. The program is the first step aimed at eliminating lead in public systems. Town staff also attended training to become water samplers for testing for drinking water, and they gain a certificate of completion. And I also received a temporary plumbing license and electrical license that will help with discussions with regulatory agencies in the future. And that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Community Deputy.
You want the mic in there? Sorry.
Look, we got a portable window.
Yeah. Make sure he's live. We did.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and New Year.
I can put it on.
Between December 6th and January 3rd, 2024, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office responded to 30 calls for service within the town of New Windsor. Those calls for service, 6 were reportable. Bear with me a minute here. On 12/19/23 at 7:28 hours, an accident was reported in the 1000 block of Green Valley Road. Both vehicles were able to be driven, and no injuries were reported. Case was closed. On 12/21/23 at 10:26 hours, an indecent activity was reported in the 2800 block of Carlisle Drive. This case is still under further investigation. On 12/23/23 at 11:20 hours, a property damage accident was reported in the 100 block of Springdale Avenue. Sorry. Need an icebreaker or something. You would think with the year down I'd be able to do this easier, but
You're fine.
You said.
yeah, that'll work. That'll work. All right. So a cat was struck with no damage reported to the vehicle. Case closed. On 10/26/23 at 20:26 hours, a property damage accident was reported in the 2800 block of New Windsor Road. A vehicle was struck resulting in minor damages. Information exchange completed. Case closed. On 12/28/23 at 11:20 hours, a destruction of property was reported in the 2800 block of New Windsor Road. An air compressor was damaged by an unknown person. Case open. And on 1/1/24 at 4:04 hours, an accident hit and run was reported in the 100 block of Main Street. Case open for further investigation. That's all I have to report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we'll just skip down to Treasurer. Dana, have anything?
She's out sick and she's got was planning to present the mid-year numbers, so she'll plan to do that at the January work session.
All right, Water and Sewer Billing Clerk.
Hi, everybody. This week, the newsletters are going out, though most of them are already out. The email copies had hit homes last week, Friday, I believe. And water bills will be out middle of next week.
Thank you. Code enforcement officer, anything?
No, I have to check on, so she usually touches base before the meeting but didn't, so I will follow up with her and see if anything's going on.
New business, Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade.
All right, you want to bring that bid tab sheet up for me, please? So the bid due date was December 15th, and we received 4 bids. So the bid tabulation is up there on the screen. GMB, our design engineer, reviewed, checked, and evaluated the bids. They provided their recommendation for award and a comparison sheet of the 4 contractors and the bid item breakdown per the RFP. That information is also in there if you care to look at that. Johnston Construction, as you can see, was the lowest bid at $624,395, which is $185,320 higher than the engineer's estimate of $439,075. The ARPA money has always been earmarked for this project, and there are other costs in addition to the construction costs for this project, which we will discuss in a little more detail, or we can do it now with the next agenda item. GMB's recommendation was for Johnston Construction Company to be awarded the Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade project for the contract bid price of $624,395, and town staff supports this recommendation.
Does anybody around here use them?
GMB has experience with them. They're out of PA, Southern PA. I had experience with them also when I was at the county. They did some pump station upgrades for county utilities. They're a good outfit.
So Gary, I understand the costs looking at all the bidders. However, our engineering services that we're paying for gave us an estimate that all the bidders came in and the lowest bid was 42% higher than that bid. And we are using those numbers to help in our budgeting and running the town. And I question, why our engineering services came in with a bid that was so, I call that, out of skew from where we were. Some of the companies are well over 100% higher than what they did. And I understand, supply chain issues. I understand COVID, but we're 3 years into COVID and supply chain issues now. I would think they would take that into consideration when they're giving us bids that, we're trying to run the town on.
Sure. I mean, I can't argue that point. One of the things in brief discussion with project manager for GMB, Dave Vanderbeek, was that the station is a package station situation. Now there's some other site improvements and things like that's going on there as well. But the estimate that the package folks from Gorman Rupp gave the engineer was what they used as a significant portion of that estimate was obviously low. So as an engineer, they reach out to vendors depending on what services or what materials and packages are being supplied to build their estimate. So that was the one thing, because I did talk to them about that, because Wayne and I were both surprised that it was that much different. So I think I previously reported it was higher, even more, but I come clean, I had the wrong, not the most updated estimate from them. And the latest one is what you see now is their estimate was $439,075. So I hear what you're saying. I mean,
and no, not getting on the town staff at all.
No,
this is our engineering, and it's making your job harder.
Right. Right.
Any other questions, comments? And this is through ARPA.
Yes. And the next thing we'll go into, you'll see that we have plenty of funding in the ARPA balance right now. I'll get into that here in a minute, but that I mentioned on this before, the ARPA money has to be spent or appropriated by December, I'm thinking ahead here, December 16th of this year. So, and appropriated by state definition is awarded contracts. So,
Do you think that that could have any impact on these bids? Knowing that.
I don't think that was public to the bidders. That we were using ARPA money?
No.
I mean,
I'm
they
just
might be
saying.
assuming that we were.
Because
Well, they know everybody's got ARPA
These
money.
giant
Yeah.
projects.
Right.
What I'm
That's a good
concerned
point.
about is in the future, the next project, could be coming in at $100,000 more.
Right. But when we get to that point and we've used every penny of that ARPA money and not given any back, we'll make sure we make the contractors aware. But
About that,
But that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Gary, one other question, and let me know if I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I did read the recommendation letter from GMB,
Mm-hmm.
and there, I think it was the fourth paragraph down, maybe it was the third, 1, 2, 3. Basically where GMB is noting that the apparent low bidders numbers are a little higher on one part of the proposal as opposed to another part.
Right.
And I was wondering if you got clarification on that. I mean, they're still apparent low bidder, but
That happens on so many projects. With College Avenue and Blue Ridge, some of those numbers were way off from one contractor to another.
right.
The
only point here is I think that not that a whole lot's going to change. Obviously, they're the low bidder or the apparent low bidder, but I thought that it sounded like you were going to follow up, or someone was going to follow up with them to kind of get an idea of what that difference was. I don't want to call it discrepancy because it could just be the way they looked at it, and I think they even said something about the way they break their labor down, if I read it correctly.
I didn't ask specifically about that because at the last statement there in that paragraph says that this may be due to some differences in what they included under each lump sum amount, although specified in specification section 01025 and the schedule of values for each lump sum bid item should be evaluated once received from Johnston, once we award. So we can look at that in more detail when they
After they review.
in more detail when they get to that point.
Good enough, yeah.
So one thing that I've noticed is when you get prices from folks nowadays, it used to be the prices were good for 30 days. I've seen them as low as 15 and even 7 days. So it's possible that there was a price change in a short period of time and that GMB didn't get an update quick enough and the numbers came in higher. So one of the things that I do is when I price stuff out, I'll get a cost update every few weeks or something like that. It just makes it a lot easier. You can't really hold a price for 30 days the way the market is now, unfortunately.
You said about checking into it, but you want approval tonight, right?
I was hoping to get approval tonight, yeah.
I'll make a motion to award the bid to Johnson Construction Company for $624,395.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Blue Ridge Pump Station upgrade to Johnston Construction Company for $624,395. Any comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So carried. One question.
Sure.
When do you see them starting spring?
That's what I'm going to find out, reach out next, is once we, at this point now, I will reach out to Johnston and also to the other three bidders as a courtesy to let them know the award was given to another engineer. And then reach out to Johnston and see what the schedule is. We typically will issue a verbal or an email or letter notice to proceed Sometimes, as we did with the water line project, depending on the material availability, we delayed the notice. We gave them verbal approval that they were given the project, and the reason being is that the construction time in the specs is based off when notice to proceed is issued. So if you issue notice to proceed right away and they're going to sit and wait for materials for 2 or 3 months, the contractor's in the hole right away on contract time. So I'll touch base with them and see and let you all know for the next meeting.
Enterprise fund, 6 years.
Real quick, before we move on, the generator was part of that, but purchased separately from Kelly Generator. If you guys recall, we got word, was it this week, I think, that generator is ready and early, ahead of schedule. So we're going to be getting a call from the transportation or delivery company to schedule. We're going to store it down here while construction's going on. So that part is ahead of schedule. So that will hopefully help the situation. Let me bring up that spreadsheet. So what we did on the enterprise fund capital project spreadsheet, the ARPA funded projects, basically in response to the higher than expected cost for Blue Ridge Pump Station, which we just discussed, staff reevaluated and made some changes to that spreadsheet. Again, keeping track of the total amount that we were awarded and then where we are year to date as of December 18th, I believe it was, and what we had originally earmarked, so to speak, and then moved some things around. If you go down to the wastewater part of it, you'll see where the actual construction estimate is in there, and then just splitting that up over 2 years. It might be done in a year. It's just more just spreading things out. But then there's the other costs that I mentioned that were related to that. The final design from Blue Ridge, that's pretty much finished, I believe, at this point. And then I'm waiting on an actual inspection proposal from WBCM. I've reached out to them. So we have that in there estimated at $75,000. I think that might be a little high, but WBCM, just so you know, they were purchased by a larger firm or merged with a larger firm, and they're actually doing away with some of the inspection services that they've done historically with smaller municipalities and even counties. But they're trying to maintain their working relationship with us. I've known those guys from my years at the county for many years. So they're fighting some increased cost on inspection due to their merger. Now that being said, they were traditionally hands down the lowest inspection services out there, from my experience. So that's sitting there at $75,000. We have the generator and ATS switch, which we've already paid for, in there at $42,331, and then GMB is already given us a proposal for bidding services and construction management services. So basically, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items give you that total of the $794,880, $817. So right now, what's highlighted in yellow, we originally were hoping to do the Atlee Ridge Pump Station with that. So right now, that calculation of $200,000 is not figured into that total at the bottom. And then if you go into up to the top, there's some water projects that we got going on. We've made some changes to those numbers. I think one of the most important ones and pretty much waiting to go is the Snyder's booster station upgrades, the new pumps and motors and check valves and piping and everything in there. That shouldn't be an issue with, I think the pumps have been approved and ordered, right, Wayne? So that's been taken care of, and I think we have also the rest of the valving costs from Mid-Atlantic, right?
We
that
we
approved a
broke
while
it up
ago?
into phases. We have the original cost estimate. We have to get a revised cost estimate.
I think that one's important there. The highlighted in the other color, I'm not gonna tell you what it is. The booster station, water main replacement from the chlorine tank to the booster station, that's already been done and paid for, and that money's been spent, again, ARPA money. And then the survey of that line was also done and spent already. We have, starting from the top, just some projects that we're working with GMB on is the water supply master planning, and then 2 projects with Hydroterra, their hydrogeologist, exploratory well drilling, and then hopefully converting a well to production in the near future. So these are the kinds of things, and then below water system modeling. We took the Atlee Ridge production well off of that list for now. These are the things that what we'll do moving forward is keep an eye on these projects along with the appropriation deadline that we know, and just we'll as we move on, we'll periodically check into things and see where our balance checks and balances are with that amount of money, and make sure we can make adjustments accordingly. And like I said, right now, between what we have we're given, and then what we spent, and then what we're proposing at this point, there's a little bit of a cushion in there for about $21,340. But again, that money we want to appropriate every penny we can. So because after that deadline, if it's not appropriated or spent, then it has to get returned.
Just
Be returned.
a thought, depending on how many projects we can get shovel ready, bidded and everything. The company that did our sewer lining, can you see what the minimum amount that they would do, so that if we just had this extra amount of money that we could go and have sewer lining, we probably wouldn't have to bid? I mean, it'd be a lot faster process, I think.
Yeah, we know, as I mentioned earlier, that we want to do lining. We have it planned.
Right.
It's one of the best bangs for the buck in terms of repairing and basically getting a new sewer line and increasing capacity at the plant, reducing flows to the plant. So we're going to be reaching out to, there's only 3 or 4
Pleasance Lane
AM lining
in 2017.
Yeah, and there's maybe 3 or 4 local contractors that do that.
And we ought to have a better picture by either July 1st or September 1st, so that September 1st we could put a bid out there and be ready to spend that money. You don't have to design really a whole lot, you know. I mean, so I think the process would be a lot faster to do sewer lining to finish up that money if we had that money.
We will still have to do an RFP and put it out there.
Right.
So I think I agree with you. We can do that pretty quickly.
So we've marked up a map on all the existing lining that we've already completed. We're ready for an RFP right now. So we can essentially go out to bid as soon as the weather warms up a little bit in the spring. So it'll be before September.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is to finish up the ARPA money, and instead of a project that you might have to design and go through the whole process. Lining is not super long taken care of. I mean, the pipes are already there. You know, it's so much per foot. I think what you said, 36.
We're figuring it's around 65.
Yeah,
$65.
it's increased.
Yeah.
There's about 12,000 or 13,000 linear feet that has to be done yet in Old Town.
Right.
So.
But I'm just saying to use the rest of that money up so we're not sending any of it back.
The last thing I think we all
That'd
know
be the
agreement
easiest
with
way.
is we don't want to send any free money back.
We may not have to have a plan B, but I just think we ought to have plan B in case we have extra money and we don't have to send it back. So.
Because given the timelines with this, we need.
Yeah, There's
It's
really,
great to have
it
that
seems like a
backup
long
plan.
way away, but it's really not in
It's
terms
gonna
of
be here.
your point of getting contracts and design and things like that take time. So,
And I don't know, I mean, I always think outside the box, and here's another one. But whether or not your contact with ARPA, if there was another Carroll County or another Maryland municipality that wasn't spending all of it,
What happens to that?
would we be able to get an agreement from that municipality?
that's
Spend
like
it? I'm sure everybody else is gonna be spending everything. But if there's money out there, I mean, it's gotta go somewhere.
it's gonna go somewhere back into the state fund. I don't know where, but
Well, it's federal money, isn't it? 'Cause-
It's going back to the federal
Would it be
government.
a great
That's where it's
one
going.
to spend money in New Windsor?
A joint project.
Yeah.
Yeah, your money, our project.
glad to accommodate.
The worst thing they can say is no, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I can reach out to our ARPA contact and ask the question, because like you
I
said,
know there was a township in Pennsylvania. I went to one of their meetings one time, and they didn't have any water and sewer to take care of. Everything was rural, and everybody was on their own systems. But they were talking about not even spending any of it, you know, at that time. And I'm thinking, man, you can find something, you know.
Yeah, really.
Filters
lot of water
for
fountains.
the
Yeah,
water
put a bunch
system,
of water
softeners,
fountains.
rain barrels,
money for a lot of things.
you know, stormwater management, something, you know, but they were talking about giving it back. But,
I think
you know, whether they did or not, I don't know. But
Gettysburg bought 2 tandem axle dump trucks with theirs.
There you go.
We don't need any more trucks, but point's well taken.
all right.
We can be creative.
Any other questions or comments, Gary, about the?
No,
The
we'll
only thing I have,
stay on top of things, like I said.
on the first page there, you have,
On the spreadsheet,
yeah, where are we here? $850,000 for 1,000 Green Valley Road in fiscal year '25. That seems a little aggressive for it to get done in '25, but that's maybe just,
where you on the ARPA projects?
no.
Oh,
On
okay.
the first, yeah, it's the first one, right? 6-year,
Yeah, but those are just ARPA, that's the spreadsheet that is copied just for the ARPA projects from that other.
right, but I say, even though, just, I know we're talking about ARPA, but the one here, out of Springdale Prep School, the $850,000 for a potential well site. Just, that seems a little aggressive. I mean, if it is, it's great, but
Oh, okay, I'm
Well,
looking at the
well, some
the
of
other
that should
tab.
be over into fiscal year 2026
Oh, I see.
with design and paperwork
Yeah.
and.
This sheet, now that we're getting into budget, will again be looked at in more detail. The ARPA tab was copied from this and then adjusted accordingly to those specifically ARPA funded projects, so.
It's a fluid planning document too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's other variables.
Line 17 is potential well site.
Then I think I did see Rups Meadow somewhere too, didn't I?
Yeah, Ropes Meadows line 15. Sorry, it's small. The spreadsheets get really big.
Yeah.
And that's still in there as a placeholder because of the Lehigh connection.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, old business.
Okay, just real quick before I turn it over to Wayne, the council approved First Class Mechanical to provide water meter removal services for the Maryland 31 Water Main Improvement Project at the work session in December. And then Mayor and Council requested some additional information on PRVs and shutoff valves. So with that, I'll turn it over to Wayne.
Okay, so this is a discussion on PRV valves and how it relates to the water line project and potentially the importance of those. Reasons for replacing the water main on High and Main Street was it was the town's main water supply transmission line, friction loss, Snyder's booster station efficiency has decreased, It's the oldest line in town and subject to the most repairs and leaks and pressure recovery. Friction loss and pressure drop. As water travels through a pipe, it encounters resistance from the internal surface, leading to friction loss and pressure drop. Impact of material replacement, upgrading older piping materials such as replacing ductile steel pipe or iron pipe, and that's what we have on Main Street and High Street, contributes to a reduction in friction loss. The smoother the interior surfaces on modern materials like plastic pipe, minimize resistance, improving the overall efficiency of water flow. As a result, pressure is increased due to the mitigation of the friction loss. Another thing it's good for is the pumping stations. Basically, there's less resistance or there's less force for the pumps to push against. And for clarification purposes, the difference between pressure reducing valves and check valves. Pressure reducing valves function to regulate and maintain stable water pressure with a specified range, reducing the incoming high pressure to a lower desired level. Check valves function to allow water to only go in one direction. So based on this information and clarification, the waterline replacement project will result in decreased friction loss and increased pressure, which will be a positive outcome for the town. However, as pressures rise due to these enhancements, PRVs act as a safeguard to protect against potential damages caused by high pressures, protecting residents from unexpected plumbing failures. I recommend spending the additional money to install PRV valves.
So do the PRV valves come with check valves, or are we doing ones without?
They're separate. So in prior meetings, we talked about Gary and I's meetings with Carroll County plumbing and inspections. Basically, our main goal was to get away from the check valves and the expansion tanks, because the check valves create a closed loop system and there's no room for expansion. Therefore, you have to install expansion tanks at the hot water tanks. So basically, we'd be inside of people's interior plumbing, like away from where the meter setter's at. So the difference with these valves is once we delete the meter setter, or the meter it's like a holding device, we're replacing that anyway with a straight piece of pipe. So we would just at that point in time put a PRV in there, and then it would basically equalize the pressure within people's houses as we make these system changes. So we can see pressure fluctuations as high as 15 to 20 pounds once this new line goes in, because there's no friction loss. So they're really an important component. Typically, whenever you do greater than 30% interior plumbing, they make you put in a PRV. They make you put in an expansion tank and a check valve. So it would typically be on the responsibility of the homeowner. However, we're making an immediate change, and it doesn't allow folks appropriate time to install these devices in their homes. And the consequence of that, if we decide not to go with the PRVs, is that we're taking a gamble that when our pumps kick on at the booster station, we're going to increase that pressure, it's going to create surging, and then people's internal plumbing, they could fail. So this kind of regulates that.
But this system, because it doesn't have a check valve, we don't need the expansion tanks then?
Correct. So so the expansion tank and the check valve, they kind of work together. And so the PRV is kind of separate. So I just wanted to clarify that so we can make the decision. And it's a tough decision, because you think, well, there's more liability because we're working within somebody's home. But we're already in that area anyway. So we're only talking about impacting like a 12-inch area. And so if we're deleting the meter setter, we're just in place of the meter, putting the pressure reducing valve.
No.
PRV's actually a little bit smaller than the meter itself.
It is,
correct?
absolutely.
My concern though originally was that if we put in a PRV that has a built-in check valve, and then we're saying, hey, here's a PRV, we're not putting an expansion tank on, and then the homeowner's kind of stuck with, oh, you're gonna have to go get a plumber, put an expansion tank in, another $300-400
Yeah.
when they didn't know. But without the check valve, if we can get away without having the need to do that,
Yeah.
it's a win-win.
And that's a valid point, because there are, check valves that have PRVs on them. We want total separation. What we're trying to accomplish is limited liability on our part. And anything in a public system, anybody that has a pressure greater than 80 needs a PRV anyway. Most modern plumbing systems can handle 150 pounds, but a lot of the plumbing internally in folks' houses are 30 years old. So we need to be careful in what we do.
Or a lot older.
Or a lot older, correct.
So Wayne, can you elaborate on where the check valve what location would the check valve be installed? Is that in the meter vault? If it was
Yeah, if a check valve was installed, it'd either go in the meter vault, or you'd get a backflow device, and the backflow device would go in the home or business. So what we're trying to accomplish is new service lines from the main to the meter vault, and then the deletion of the meter inside, and then regulating the pressure based on the friction loss change. And so it's kind of we're kind of guessing at things, right? We know there's already been an increase in pressure in some areas based on the installation of the Springdale line, but we expect the same thing would happen on High Street when we start replacing the line here as well, because as older pipes age, they get calcified inside and they get restricted, and the water flows at less pressure because it's more restricted. And that's a lot of times what causes water main breaks and cracks and issues. And so as we're eliminating that problem, and there's less friction loss, we need to do something to counteract that. And that's why a lot of folks, when they have a plumber come to their house, that's one of the first things that a plumber recommends is a pressure reducing valve, because it curbs any kind of fluctuation and pressure, and it really stabilizes water systems. So
we're gonna need 77 of these?
we won't need 77. I know of 5 pressure reducing valves off the top of my head, just from being in houses, looking at meters, and you take pictures and things of that nature. So we're not going to spend the full amount of money on the pressure reducing valves that we received the estimate from First Class Mechanical, but there will be some expense. Without going into everybody's houses individually and doing like a system audit, we won't know exactly how many PRVs are in place. I recommend installing PRVs where there are no PRVs. If there's a PRV there, we kind of let it alone and go about our business. And some folks actually have pressure tanks and PRVs already installed. We're going to make note of that, and we'll keep that for our records, because that's something important for future regulations, to know that folks have check valves, PRVs, and expansion tanks. And when we had met with the county basically said it would take several months for them to obtain the records of where they know these installations took place. So it's pretty much a boots on the ground thing. I would envision that as First Class Mechanical would go along and start deleting meters, I could inspect the homes and approve each location whether or not they get a pressure reducing valve or not. And then for our documentation, I could take pictures, and we're talking about Mid-Atlantic moving along with the installation of the water main, and then they're going to install laterals. So there will be weeks of separation in between, and let's say they get done 3 houses a week. Well, for me, that's 15 minutes per house, so it's not like it's going to consume my time to the point where we won't get other things done and things of that nature. So I think we'll be okay there.
The only remaining question that I have though is how do we notify the homeowners that this, we'll put it in, but then the responsibility of if it goes up in 10, 15 years would be on the homeowner?
So my guess to that would be similar to when Gary worked for the county. The county had a letter that they would send to the resident, hey, we're removing your meter. This is what we're doing, and that would kind of be the end of liability there. Once we get our infrastructure out, they would assume all liability of whatever component was in the house. The benefit of this is we have a certified plumber going in someone's home. They don't want to tarnish their reputation. They're going to warranty the work to a certain extent. So by us hiring a certified plumber, rather than Public Works going in and deleting the meter, we have that protection right there. And they actually, we require plumbers, vendors, contractors to provide us with a certificate of insurance. So we're covered.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that the plumber's going to do a great job and everything like that. I'm just concerned about in 5-10 years, if they ever have an issue and past the warranty period, they're going to remember that the town put it in, not a plumber or so. And then the assumption there is that the town should replace it if it's and I just want to make sure that we're covered in that sense. That
Did we not tell the homeowners that the everything from the vault to the house is now their responsibility?
Right.
it always was.
It always was.
But we're
It
still
is.
going in.
But the scenario that Wayne referred to with the way the county does, because the county's has been doing the same thing. They have older homes where the meters are in the house. They have had programs or projects where they would go in and do neighborhoods and have a contractor come in, put all new meter vaults in, do the same thing that we're doing as part of our water line project. And the process, and I'll have to reach out to utilities because it's been a little while, but the process once the new, in our case, the lateral and meter vault and meters put outside, is then a letter goes out to the resident to say, this is what's been done. We have a hired plumbing contractor that's going to be scheduling the removal of the inside meter. And there's verbiage in there that says then upon removal of that meter, then again I'll have to get right.
That'd be good.
What typically is the warranty period? I mean, a year?
Yeah, a year, most of it.
I would
Is that what
imagine
we
so.
would be saying about a year?
Materials and labor, but that's.
It's gonna last a lot longer than that, but
Yeah, no, I was just wondering. I mean, is that verbiage that we could put in the?
we'd have to talk to the plumber.
Well, that's specific to the plumber and basically what they would warranty. The other thing that we can do, and it's something that we're eventually going to have to do anyway, and Gary and I were talking about this, is revising our water sewer code. So our water sewer code is relatively dated. There's a lot of things in there that just don't make sense with the practices that we have today. And I think clarification on town responsibility, whether it be a curb stop, sewer clean out, or vault, it should be clearly spelled out as far as when, the town has responsibility versus the homeowner. Something that we could do is basically say that once an interior meter is removed, it's the responsibility of the homeowner for all internal plumbing. So the way our code's written now is if there's a curb stop, the town's responsibility ends at the curb stop or the clean out. However, the confusion is when you have an interior meter, the setter and the meter is the town's. So if we remove that from the equation and we clarify that for folks, that in turn will assist us with these types of projects moving forward, because eventually we'll have Lampert Avenue, Hillside
All
Avenue.
right, you work on that, and then we'll take care of this tonight on the pressure, because that's not in the contract with First Mechanical, or price of the pressure reducer.
They bid it, yeah.
It's already in there,
Yeah, 'cause-
so then,
Yeah, we just
It
decided.
was like 20.
At the last meeting, I gave that spreadsheet, and their price for PRV is $295 each. I calculated out as all 78.
we're good to go then.
The only question I had, and maybe you can elaborate on, is
We need the price.
Huh?
We need a motion on the price.
I thought that the vote last
The vote
time was
last
up
time
to.
was for the first
No, it was vote to, I believe was to approve first-class mechanical, not for any high or low price.
Minutes.
I mean, I had an argument about the PRV valve. And
made the
we
motion
kinda stopped
just
and
to
said, well,
Do them.
So they could say not to exceed.
Okay,
and we gotta say, I mean, we gotta.
well, let me,
The
let me,
not to
fin-
exceed wasn't in the motion, I don't recall.
It wasn't in the motion, but they could say that now if that clarifies.
I mean, we can, yeah.
Yes.
the only thing I wanna clarify then, if we're gonna actually do a not to exceed price, or a maximum price, however you wanna word it, is you talked about a check valve and where that's required, and that was coming from what we thought was gonna be a requirement from the county plumbing, which would have gone at the meter site, meter vault site, right? So that's off the table. One of the other things that get my contractors mixed up. First Class Mechanical bid as a line item was an internal shutoff valve. Now, what scenario, obviously it would be internal, but in relation to us removing the meter and straight piping, putting a PRV in, where and when would an interior shutoff valve be?
So, if I were allowed to, I can make that judgment call per each scenario. The problem with not providing an internal shutoff valve, if there isn't one there now, or if there was an inoperable one, it's a great expense to the town to come to somebody's house, because we're the only one that can access our utilities, right? So if somebody needs to shut off a curb stop, or somebody needs to shut off a shutoff valve inside of a meter pit, they have to call town hall to do that. So if they have an inactive, or they have absolutely no valve inside, what happens is whenever they have a leak, they'll call town hall. And at that point, then I have to respond, and I have to shut their water off. Whereas if they had an internal shutoff valve, they could do it themselves independently. Now, when it's between the hours of 7:30 to 4, it's of no relevance to cost of the town, because we're here during business hours. However, if it's after 7:30 to 4, then my labor itself would pay for the shutoff valve to be installed in the house.
So a lot less than the PRV.
It'd be a lot less.
They're gonna need that anyway too, because when they're gonna be putting in the PRV.
There's other reasons to have shut-off valves. So, I mean, we kind of need.
So again, so your thoughts then are also obviously with the PRVs, but also the interior shutoff.
Correct.
So then, again, I calculated those prices that First Class provided, unit prices, and I used the full number of 78, and that gives you your maximum cost of $48,520. So if we're not, I don't know how you're all comfortable with making the motion, but
I mean, given the fact that we're not talking about a check valve now, so the homeowner is no longer responsible for a expansion tank, I would make a motion to spend not in excess of $48,520.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. All right. Any other old business? Residents' concerns?
None.
All right, announcements, January 10th and 17th Christmas tree pickup. Anybody have anything else? Heritage Committee have anything?
We're open every Saturday this month from 10 to 1,
Okay.
207 Main Street.
Wayne?
So one other thing, the Christmas tree has been delivered to the
Thanks.
resident.
Very good.
Early,
In record
real
time.
early.
All right. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Did you do this already?